Hey guys, so I'm really excited. A lot has been going on. So basically, I have been taking the original Need and Tug call that Gary did in like 2014, and I have been transcribing it because this is my point of view. Listen to it, you get it once. Transcribe it, you get it 10 times worth. And you can't transcribe and not be present. So when I really want to get something, when I really want to get a topic, I transcribe it. So I had a private session with somebody this morning, and he's a young guy, and he is really in this place right now where he's like, it's not that he wants to die, but it's like he doesn't want to live. And we've been doing kind of like a series of private sessions, and it always sort of, it's like we'll expand, and then he'll go back to this place of like, I don't really want to live. And what we got to in the session it was so exciting. I'm so excited about it. Because you know how, for any of you who've been around Gary, he will say a lot like, you just want to be normal. You just want to be normal. You just want to be normal. And I'm like, okay, cool, awesome. And I'm like, there's a part of normal that I needed to get to in my own world in order to like unlock these possibilities and like this aliveness. And so, because normal is not the same as alive or living. So it's like when we do normal, or try to do normal, we are trying to do the opposite of consciousness, or like we're basically doing death rather than like active living. So I started asking some questions in the session, and we were doing some SOP, and we got to this place where it's like, I went like, did you watch a lot of American movies as a kid? And he had, and he talked about that in other sessions actually too. And it's like this thing of like in American movies or in romance novels, it's everywhere in this reality. But I'm just thinking about like what I grew up with as a kid, and what he grew up with as a kid, and what a whole lot of people grow up with. And it's like this thing about this fantasy of like just like winning, like in the movie, like even like the protagonist, and you're gonna like, the protagonist gets everything in the end because they're so cool, or they like it's what we really got to in the session was like, he was so being cool was more important to him than consciousness. But he was also really bored in the sense of like, he's tried to be cool, he's done being cool, like he's tried it, he's used it, and it never delivers. He's like, I go out with these friends and I'm so bored. Like, he's like, even I get the girl and that's boring. And I'm like, but he's also said, I'm not interested in consciousness. And he's like, I am interested in consciousness. I've done some advanced access classes, but after this major advanced access class, I got so aware that I basically could see like the darkness and the emptiness. And then he bought it as his, and he thought that like he had a void of loneliness. And then he actually went on medication after, and only for a short while, because he realized that didn't work. But it's like he became so aware of this void of loneliness. So he had this amazing power and this amazing potency to change things. And it's like, but it kept going back to, in the session, like being cool. And like, I was asking like, what energy, space, and consciousness can you be to be like too cool for school? Because that's what kept coming into my head, was the saying too cool for school, or like too cool for schmool, as that's what Anthony and I always say around the house, like, you're too cool for schmool. Our daughter just turned 13, so there are times where she's too cool for schmool. And so I was looking at this with him, and it was in this session, it was very cool. And then after the session, I called my friend Anita, who's hosting me for this Right Voice for You class that I have coming up. And the Right Voice for You class it just kind of felt normal. It's like something had to change with the class. And so her and I were talking about it, and I just knew I had to tell her about the session. And I was like, Anita, like, this session was amazing because, like, what we got to was, like, he would rather be cool and, like, win in, like, the championship of coolness than actually be conscious. And then we started talking about Dane, and I'm sure most of you know Dane. And Dane is, like, he's more than cool. Like, he's way beyond cool. He's, like, the coolest. But, like, he also doesn't care at all about being cool, and he's not trying to live his life from some, like, romance novel or movie or, like, set of rules. Like, he spent 20 years in Access, like, destroying it and creating that, and, like, his incredible drive as, like, an Olympian of consciousness, like, outcreates his need to get the conclusion of this reality correct. So I'm talking to Anita about this, and we're talking about Dane, and she's like, and I was like, Dane's like, he's willing to, like, be a psychopath, like, and she kept getting caught on the word psychopath, and I'm like, I mean it, like, in the sense of, like, he's so intense with everything that he does, and, like, but he's also relaxed in it, and, like, just willing to be so different. Like, this cassette tape is not running in the background, and so that allows so much to come. And then the other thing we were talking about is how, like, the need for money, it's like so many people are like, I have this need for money, I have this need for money. It's like, you know, I never know if I'm gonna get my bills met, or, like, creating enough for classes. And it's like, you actually have to create enough, like, living and aliveness in order for money to come. So it's like, Dane's always, like, he always has money coming. We were talking about Dane. It's like, he has money coming with ease, but he's always creating the living and the aliveness. Like, he'll wake up in the morning and it's like, you know, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? What am I going to, whatever? And, like, who am I going to facilitate? And he doesn't, like, exclude anything as not cool enough. Like, he's willing to include everything in the possibilities. And then we started talking about, like, just where you go on autopilot and you unplug from consciousness in order to be cool. And so then we decided, as a pair, Anita and I, that we're going to rename this Right Voice class. And I actually want to do this about stopping the place where you unplug from consciousness. And, like, if you didn't have that cassette tape of, like, an American movie or a, you know, a righteousness, or, like, the cassette tape of, like, your family, or, like, those things that go over and over and over, if that wasn't running all the time, you know, and, like, and then, you know, Anita was talking about how she, like, will create and create and create, and it is amazing, and then she has to, like, stop or unplug, and I said, I do the same thing. And so it's like, we were talking about that, and, like, what would it be like if we didn't do the unplug thing? Like, if we just created and created and created and didn't need to, you know, have one foot in consciousness and creating classes and being happy and going to classes and creating what you desire, and then this other part where you just sort of turn into a pile of dust. And so, and not the good pile of dust, that's not what I mean, but, like, unplug from consciousness. So what would it take to be that alive and that full of living and that full of difference? And what if it didn't matter if you were normal? And I'm going to extend that and say, what if it didn't matter if you were cool? Because I know for a lot of you that actually reads really different than normal, but it actually is included in being normal. So there you have it. What would it be like if you didn't unplug